Howdy, Ramblers!
Howdy, it's another Free Beer Friday.
Yep, and we're going to be showing you the Sparge today.
Yep, and recirculation, which is also known as a Vorlauf. And this is part of our series on how we brew. We do all of our water heating on the stovetop. We got our mash tun, as you saw in the mash video before, down here on the chair, and then all the way down on the floor. So it's almost like a 3-tier. We've got the kettle now, which is empty. What we want to do now is stir it up real good.
Yeah, you want to stir it to make sure you're getting the grain and the water kind of mixed well before we start our first step of pouring it into the kettle and then starting to recirculate the water. So the grain in there actually kind of acts as its own filtration system as you run water through it, which is kind of a cool technique.
And then I think that's pretty good. You know, you always want a good stir because you're trying to get those sugars out of the grain and into the water. And then in order to sort of just make it smoother so we're not stirring up the grain we pour back in, we'll just use a piece of foil with holes in it. What we're doing is also, we'll be moving on to a batch sparge technique.
And we are going to use this pitcher to rerun the mash through for circulation.
It's good to have, I find that about something that's about a quart is ideal size. We used to use a beer pitcher, and that broke, and we started using a 2-cup measuring cup, which is really just not big enough, but I find that we often have to circulate about 3 or 4 quarts in order to get the natural filtering going. So what you're basically doing, like Amber said, it's got a natural filtering effect because of all the grain husks. But what you have to do is you have to sort of flow some water through that to get the filter set up and the grain settled before it will pour out clear into your kettle. You do not want to put this in the kettle. See how murky that is? So then I'll pour it over the... Ooh, I'll make a mess. I'll pour it over my foil, which will just keep it from stirring the grain up as I add it back. And then we repeat. It's a lot like shampooing, you know, rinse and repeat.
Really rich.
We also use a stool, and we're sitting on a stool. And if you use this setup, it's really helpful because you have to kind of sit down there while you're pouring for a while. And also... Do you open the valve all the way, or...?
No, you actually don't want to open it all the way because you want to give it time to filter through the grain that's in there. So you just kind of turn it on a little bit to get a, you know, small steady stream coming through.
I'd say about halfway.
Halfway? Yeah.
So this is about the 3rd time now.
It's already starting to get more clear. Less gunk just coming through. This beer is going to be a really beautiful color. You can tell already.
Okay, so you can see that that's a lot more. Well, you might not be able to see, but it's definitely got a lot less stuff in it right now. Not quite there. Still kind of a lot of grain floating around. You're going to have a little bit, I think, no matter what, which is also kind of helpful. But you definitely don't want to be just pouring like raw, unfiltered, grainy solids in there. Okay, so this is pretty dark beer, so it's probably hard to see on there, but that's a pretty good level of clarity for the first runnings, which is what you call this one, because this is actually not a rinse, but it is the first drain. It's the drain of the mash. And we've taken you up to this point before. Amber's going to open the valve halfway and start draining it into the kettle. Done. And when we come back, we'll talk about Sparge. Oh, that's heavy. Alright, it's been a few minutes, but you can see how this is drained through.
We're going to run through some more water.
Alright, that's the Sparge. It's a rinsing process. We have a carefully coordinated process here, but you may want to, like, if you had a valve, it would obviously be a lot safer to pour. This is our second kettle. We don't have a valve on it. We've practiced this. We actually like to, you know, some people do this in one step. We actually divide this into 2 steps. It takes a little longer. But this is a batch sparge, and the difference is that there's another one called a fly sparge, where you would be, instead of a rinse and a drain and a rinse and a drain, they run water through it constantly with a spreader. Really mix it up again. All right, here we go.
Wow, this is coming out really thick and cloudy, so we're gonna have to do this a couple times.
It'll look a lot thinner too, so it'll actually make it easier to see the debris, because the beer is now thinner now. That first rinse is the richest one. All right, now that looks nice. So we have a towel on the floor beneath the kettle, and since we use this electric heat stick, we're actually going to put the heating element in now at this point, which will keep it nice and warm, and we'll get up to a boil faster.
Heating element.
Foil out. Oh, well, it's one last recirculation for this last rinse.
No, well, my part of the team left, so now I'm going solo. And pour that in. So this is actually nice and clear and ready to go. Since it's the last rinse, it's pretty thin. I'll show it to you. Pretty clear. It's like tea. You can see right through it. So we're going to let this drain out. Throw this one in here, and then we're going to be ready for the boil. And there we go. Okay, so now we're ready for the boil, and we just got to put this on the stove. So here we go. Oh, that's nice and heavy. Okay, so this is going to be a 90-minute boil.
Oh, yeah. That's a lot of liquid.
That's a lot of liquid.
I hope it doesn't go everywhere.
Probably will.
Well, that's it for the sparge and the recirculation.
Until next time when we talk about the boil and the hops, pretty much does it for us.
All right, ramble on.
Cheers. Cheers.
Glad I did not just break that glass
into our beer.
I need to take my allergy medicine.